since I'm the first one. Yeah. I want to see you on the end.
Hey.
Well, look who it is.
Did you just see my text?
No, I haven't looked. I heard a buzz, but it's in my case. I haven't looked yet.
Have you booked the band for next Tuesday?
Probably not. I was away for 3 weeks.
Okay, I have to let this. Why are you laughing at me? Why do people do that? I have feelings. Morning, Foothills. Good morning, Edmonton. Oh, I scared Edmonton away. They left. Good morning. There you go. Yes, Edmonton. Fantastic. So good morning, folks.
They're like they weren't responding. Good morning.
Could you go back on the camera and do that? Because I can't see anybody from that. There you go. Excellent. So I just got a couple of announcements this morning, then we're going to introduce our speaker. So, and I have to read this one word for word because our speaker is up next, and Donna will yell at me if I don't get this correct. So, Faithful Friend event is this Sunday, August 27th, 1 to 4 p.m. We mentioned this last week. This is an event for our monthly donors. We have an annual event for them, and this year it will be an outdoor paint session led by volunteer artists under a big tent in the parking lot of 102. That sounds like fun. We'll have some games, activities, and pizza for everyone to enjoy. We'll also do tours of the mustard seed if any staff are interested in volunteering. You're still looking for 7 to 8? 3 to 4. Let's go 7 to 8 and see if you get 3 to 4. Do that. To help with tours, serving food, help run the event, please talk to Donna. Donna, raise your arm. There you go. If you're interested in helping out. Now, Drew's got an announcement. Is Drew here? Well, not really. It's 10:01. Okay, so also we got a couple things going on next week. So we have next week's speaker is Rod Sawatsky, who's the chaplain from the Stampeders and the Flames. So he'll be speaking in here for our Faith Connect. Then at 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock over here in the same room, there's a number of Calgary Stampeders are coming in to share their testimonies, right? And so these posters are up everywhere. So if you're a big Stamps fan, go Leos. You know, that's next week. This week's speaker, is Drew here yet? Okay. Drew may be doing an announcement at the end. It's fine. This week is Donna, and the legendary Donna. It is kind of awesome for me to get to introduce her. I just thought I'd describe her this way. She's the one person going to walk in my office and say, Bill, will you do this for me? And it's impossible to say no to Donna, isn't it? How many people have had that experience? And so when I came to her and said, I would like you to come and speak at Faith Connect, she just said, that would be awesome, Bill. I'm very excited about it. And so can we give Donna a big round of applause, please?
Thanks. Okay, cool. Right here. Hi everyone. Hello, Edmonton and Shelter. Hi, everyone in Calgary. Drew's here, so Drew, you're going to do your announcement at the end, okay? Cool. Yeah, so as Bill said, my name's Donna. I have been with the Mustard Seed for 2 years, and yeah, really love it here. So I'm really excited and honored that I get to share today and that Bill has asked me. So we're going to start with praying, if that's cool. So, dear God, we just thank you so much for this day, Lord, that your mercies are new every morning, and that you are good and that you are faithful, and that you have brought us here for such a time as this. And we just pray that the words that come out of my mouth, Lord, today would be of you, and that you would just give us clear hearts and clear minds to know you and to hear you each day. In your name we pray. Amen. So it's summer, as many of you guys know. I don't know if you guys are into summer or into camping. How many of you guys like camping? So supportive, my little fan club in the front here. Or how many of you guys have maybe gone camping this summer? Nice. Lucky, I haven't yet, to be honest. My family loves camping, though, and they go all out. But they kind of cheat. A few summers ago, they got a trailer, so it's not real tent camping. So if you're one of those like hardcore tent camping types, just stay with me here. So they take their trailer out as much as possible in the summers, and they literally take all week to prepare. My mom stuffs this big Rubbermaid bins full of basically everything in her kitchen, and my dad takes his whole garage camping because you never know what kind of tools you may need, he says. They go overboard completely with preparing for camping, but in the end, it's worth it. They always make the most extravagant meals. That's what my family loves to do, is cook, which is great because I love to eat. My family's not the kind to do like roast hot dogs over the fire for dinner when you're camping. They have a full-on feast. All kinds of seafood, like shrimp and mussels, and like Filipino food, and barbecue chicken and barbecue pork, rice, all kinds of marinated meats. So they eat better when they're camping than I do most nights at home because I'm not much of a cook. I love camping, but to be honest, I haven't done much of it this summer. Actually, the last time I did go camping was in the Negev Desert when I was in Israel earlier this year, which is a really incredible experience, and if you guys haven't been to Israel yet, highly recommend it. Yeah, it's just incredible to be in the land and in the space that Jesus walked and where the Israelites were. So I really want to share some of the insights and thoughts and reflections that I've had about the Israelites and their story since experiencing the land that they were in. Have you ever considered what the daily needs of the Israelites would have been in the wilderness? Their 40 years wandering in the desert and still having their needs provided would have been the biggest miracle in the Bible. When you think about it, how would 2.5 to 3.5 million people survive in a desert? That's like 2 times the population of Calgary. I don't know if you've ever been in a desert, but it's literally a desert. Bare and nothingness of land. God's people had to be fed every day. Feeding 1 million people in large flocks and herds of animals would have required a lot of food. According to records, they would have had to have 1,500 tons of food each day. That would take 2 freight trains, each a mile long, to feed that many people every day. And they would also need firewood to cook that food. This would take 4,000 tons of wood and a few more freight trains, each a mile long, just for one day. Almost as much as what my parents would take camping. A person's water requirement would have been 19 liters per day in the heat of the desert. Therefore, it is thought that the Israelites would have needed up to 42 million liters of water each day just to drink, wash themselves, and clean their dishes. This would have been equivalent to a freight train of tank cars, 1,800 miles long, just to bring in water. They had no lakes and not a lot of wells. And every time they camped, at the end of the day, they needed a campground of about 1,890 square kilometers. That's like if you put the cities of Calgary, Edmonton, and 3 Red Deers all together in the same space. So these are pretty significant miracles, and yet they still complained. In Numbers 11, we see them complaining about all of these miracles. So Numbers 11 goes, "Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord, and when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So the place was called Taberah, because fire from the Lord had burned among them. The rabble with them began to crave other food. And again the Israelites started to wail and said, 'If only we had meat to eat! We remember the fish we ate in Egypt, and at no cost. Also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. And now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna.' This manna was like coriander seed and looked like resin. The people went around gathering it and then ground it in a hand mill or crushed it in a mortar. They cooked it in a pot or made it into loaves, and it tasted like something made with olive oil. When the dew settled on the camp at night, the manna also came down." The Israelites were complaining about not having what they wanted in the desert. They would rather be enslaved in Egypt and have enough than be free and have not enough. They complained that they only get this manna, and they want what they had when they were slaves. They say they had all these kinds of different kinds of food, like fish and cucumbers, Melons, leeks, onions, garlics, all for free at no cost. And now they're just eating manna, which tastes like olive oil. I actually made dinner last night. Shocker, I know. But I accidentally used too much olive oil. I was not a fan of the taste of olive oil. So I would definitely get sick of only eating one kind of food every day, unless it was donuts, because you can never have too many donuts. So the manna was miraculous. There's no manna in the desert. Literally nothing in the desert, remember? So every day God had to provide this manna for them. At night, when the dew settled, the manna also came down. That's a pretty incredible miracle. I mean, if donuts started raining every night, I wouldn't really complain. How many times have we not appreciated or even recognized the miracles in front of us because we were too busy looking back at what we had or looking ahead for the next thing? How many times have we been too distracted with what we don't have to see the miracle we're in? Now it's Moses' turn to complain. We keep reading in verse 10. Moses heard the people of every family wailing at the entrance of their tents. The Lord became exceedingly angry, and Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, "Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant, to the land you promised on oath to their ancestors? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, 'Give us meat to eat.' I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy on me. If this is how you're going to treat me, please go ahead and kill me. If I have found favor in your eyes, do not let me face my own ruin." Moses is being a little bit dramatic here, and that's probably why I love this text so much. Moses, the person God chose to lead the Israelites out of slavery, is complaining about being a leader, complaining about the call that God has put in his life. "Kill me now," he says, "it's too much." So how does God respond to his leader who would rather die than keep leading his people? And how does God respond to his people who would rather be in slavery and oppressed than live in freedom and journey to the land that God has promised them? In his nature, God is still good and still faithful. He brings other leaders around Moses. The Lord, in verse 16, the Lord said to Moses, "Bring me 70 of Israel's elders who are known to you as leaders and officials among the people. Have them come to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you. I will come down and speak to you there. I will take some of the power of the Spirit that is on you, and I will put it on them. They will share the burden of the people with you, so that you will not have to carry it alone." Wow, I really like that. They will share the burden of the people with you, so that you will not have to carry it alone. Aren't you glad you aren't in this alone? I think in our work, it can feel like an uphill battle. Are we really making a difference in the lives of our clients? They're not a burden, but the issues of homelessness and poverty are. But he provides other people to share the burden, to labor in this work with you. He provides everything we need to fulfill his purpose. The Israelites have asked for meat, and he gives them more meat than they can handle, more meat than they know what to do with. This is God instructing Moses again in verse 18. He says, "Tell the people, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow, when you will eat meat. The Lord heard you when you wailed, 'If only we had meat to eat, we were better off in Egypt.' Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will eat it. You will not eat it just for 1 day, or 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for the whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it. Because you have rejected the Lord who is among you, and you have wailed before him, saying, 'Why did we ever leave Egypt?'" And so how does Moses respond? With doubt, obviously. But Moses says, in verse 21, "Here I am among 600,000 men on foot, and you say, 'I will give them meat to eat for a whole month.' Would they have even enough if flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? Would they have enough if all the fish in the sea were caught for them?" The Lord answered Moses, "Is the Lord's arm too short? Now you will see whether or not what I say will come true for you." Would they have even enough if flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? Would they have even enough if all the fish in the sea were caught for them? Would they have even enough? Moses isn't doubting God's power to do it, but he is definitely not speaking from a place of abundance. Would they have enough? Have they not had enough food in the desert? Hasn't God been providing manna for them every day, just enough for the day? God has shown the Israelites over and over again that he is faithful and that he provides enough, and that he is enough. God kind of laughs back at Moses. Is the Lord's arm too short? You'll see whether or not what I say will come true for you. God's like, I've got something up my sleeve, just wait and see. It's crazy to me that even in the Israelites' complete disobedience, selfish complaining, God still provides for them because he still loves them. That's how good God is. Did you know that their journey of wandering in the desert for 40 years should have actually taken them only 11 days to get from the point where they started to Canaan? That's probably the world's worst detour. I don't know if you've ever been lost, but I know how frustrating it can be, traveling and not knowing if you're going in the right direction, walking around in circles, and then finding out that that trip could have taken a fraction of the time. I mean, granted, they probably didn't have Google Maps or the same navigational tools that we do today, but to me, that really emphasizes the significance of the process to getting to the promise. The Israelites had a promise, but they needed to go through the process first. The process isn't easy or even short or comfortable, but he is good and he carries us through. He gives us promises and is faithful to carry us through the process. Sometimes the carrying through doesn't look like how we want it to. God gave the Israelites manna every day, but only enough for that day. He could have easily given them whatever they wanted, however much they wanted, whenever they wanted, but he didn't. He still loves them, but he wants them to trust him every single day. In the process, it can seem like we're living in a season of not enough, when everything is a struggle to get to the next day. Like, how often do we find ourselves saying, I can't wait for this day to be over? Are we really living the promise he has given us in John 10:10? I came so that they may have life and have it abundantly. How often do I complain about not having enough? Not enough money, not enough time, not enough shoes or clothes or whatever it is. But what if in the process we actually have just enough? What if in the process we have just enough of what we need for the day, and we have faith in God for the rest of it? We will never get to where God wants us to be unless we are willing to go through a season of just enough in the wilderness. And the thing about the wilderness is, we don't need to thrive in the wilderness. We just need to survive on him and him alone. And that's the test. We weren't meant to stay in the wilderness in a season of just enough, but it's a part of the process, a part of the journey. He wants to give you abundance, but he needs to know that he can be just enough for you. The wilderness is hard work. It's uncomfortable, it's not easy, but God never promised us comfort. He promised us life, and life abundantly. The Israelites wandering in the desert had just enough. They had to fully trust God in that season of just enough to be able to make it one day at a time. I don't know what season or what part of the journey you may be in. Maybe you're feeling some discontentment with not having enough. Maybe you look around at your friends who seem so much further along and think, if only I had that job, that relationship, those skills, that family, whatever it is, then I would be all set. Or maybe a little bit of jealousy sneaks in, and you start to focus on what you don't have rather than the miracle that you're actually in. I think the enemy uses the lie of not enough to shift our focus away from God's promise of abundant life. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough at this or that. I'm not enough. Well, the Israelites sure weren't grateful enough. But did they get to the land of more than enough? Eventually. Perhaps in our work with clients, we feel that, or we hear that. Maybe we think that we're not enough to help them. We've exhausted all our resources with them, and now we feel stuck. We've done all we can to help them, but it's just not enough. Or maybe we hear from them, I don't have enough. We, all of us, can use the excuse of not enough as a way to give up or discredit the promise. What if we're actually in a season of just enough, and God wants us to expand our faith and stretch us to trust him more every day? What if the excuse of not enough is actually the enemy trying to distract us from the miracles and the blessings in front of us? When we feel like we're alone in this, weighed down by the societal burden of homelessness, looking ahead at a call or at a promise that seems much greater than we can handle, what if he has surrounded us with people to share that burden so that we don't have to carry it alone? Wow, I'm ending super early, but Drew will talk for a long time. So I want to end with one more verse. Actually, it's two more verses. It's Philippians 4, 12 and 13. This is Paul writing to the church in Philippi in the New Testament. I love that we've been looking at the story of the Israelites in the Old Testament, and now we get to conclude in the New Testament. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned that the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want, I can do all of this through him who gives me strength. Thanks for letting me share today. Drew.
Good job, Donna. That was fantastic. Sorry I was late, everybody. This was supposed to happen before as an announcement. It's not necessarily an announcement, just but a bit of a friendly reminder. We're going into the fall season now, as summer is kind of coming to a close, and in society, more or less, people are kind of ending their vacation time and the other extracurriculars. And so I just want to give a friendly reminder to everyone at the Mustard Seed that you're all like advocates to what we do in community and how people can be involved. And you all have a special story of how you work here. And right now, leading into September, is when we recruit tons of volunteers. So you can all advocate to the people you know in your community about coming and volunteering at the Mustard Seed, basically. That's basically all I wanted to say. We're going into the season now. We're doing a lot of recruitment. Specifically, if you're using those benefits that HR was telling us about last week and meeting with chiropractors, physio, massage therapists, we bring them all in, both and other professional volunteers, both at the Wellness Center and at the shelter, believe it or not. So don't forget to throw the bug in people's ear when you're meeting people this fall, and just refer them to our website or to make a phone call. Same goes in Edmonton and Red Deer as well, guys. Let's have a wonderful season. And thanks again, Donna. That was awesome. You're all dismissed.